Black beggar woman slept in square with baby, until a stranger saw her necklace and changed everything. Faith held little Mason close to her chest as the cold dawn wind of New York City swept through Union Square. Her life had become a series of sleepless nights, protecting her 3-month-old son from the elements and the dangers of the streets. It was during one of these nights that William Harrison, a 62-year-old businessman, stopped abruptly as he passed by the square. Something glinted faintly under the dim light of the lamppost where the woman had taken shelter. It was an old necklace with a golden locket that he recognized immediately. That unique piece of jewelry had belonged to his late wife, Grace. "Excuse me for bothering you," William said, approaching carefully. "That necklace, where did you get it?" Faith tightened her grip on the baby and lowered her head, trying to hide the jewelry under her tattered coat. "I didn't steal anything, mister. It's rightfully mine," she murmured, her voice heavy with exhaustion and distrust. "I didn't say you stole it. It's just, this piece looks very much like one that belonged to my wife." The woman quickly stood up from the bench, stumbling over her own feet. Some papers fell from her torn bag, scattering across the ground. William bent down to help gather them, and his eyes widened when he saw a birth certificate with the last name, Watson Harrison. "Why are you running away?" he asked, handing her the documents. "Because people like you always want to take everything from us," Faith replied, taking the papers with trembling hands. William fell silent for a moment, studying the thin woman in her 30s, her delicate features somehow familiar. The baby whimpered softly, and she rocked him with infinite tenderness. "What's your name?" "Faith Watson Harrison. And before you ask, no, I don't know any rich relatives." The businessman felt a chill in his stomach. Harrison wasn't a common last name, and that necklace, how could she have it? May I sit here with you for a moment?" Faith hesitated, but the baby was fussy, and she didn't have the strength to keep walking. "Do you have family here in New York City?" William asked gently. "Family?" She laughed bitterly. "If I had family, would I be sleeping on the streets with my son? And the baby's father?" Faith's expression hardened completely. "He disappeared when he found out I was pregnant, said he wouldn't raise a poor woman's child." William noticed how she unconsciously clutched the necklace as if it were a protective charm. The gesture was identical to Grace's when she was nervous. "Faith, may I ask you something about the necklace? I already told you it's mine. I'm not questioning that. I just want to know how you got it." She eyed him suspiciously, but something in his voice made her relax slightly. "It was my mother's, the only valuable thing she owned. And your mother, is she... She passed when I was 17, left me only this necklace and a lot of stories about a family that never wanted to know me." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. William's heart raced. Grace had always mentioned having a sister her family had rejected, but she never went into detail. Could it be that... What kind of stories did your mother tell? Faith adjusted the baby who had fallen asleep in her arms. She talked about a twin sister who lived in a big mansion, married to a wealthy businessman, said they were identical, but the family chose only one to have a good life. "Twin?" William's voice came out almost as a whisper. "Yeah. Mom always said she had a sister who lived on the other side of town but could never find her. She died dreaming of meeting the niece she never had." William felt his legs go weak. Grace had died 2 years before, the victim of a sudden illness, and in her final days, she had murmured about a sister she needed to find. "Faith, do you know this sister's name?" "Grace. Mom's name was Hope, and the sister was Grace. She said their parents gave them similar names because they were born attached, but life separated them." William's world stopped. Grace and Hope, twins. Everything made sense now. The nights Grace cried without explanation, the times she stared out the window as if waiting for someone, her insistence on doing social work downtown. "My God," he murmured. "What's wrong? You're pale." "Faith. My wife's name was Grace. Grace Watson Harrison." The woman stared at him in disbelief. "Are you mocking me?" No, I swear I'm not. Grace died 2 years ago. She always talked about a sister she could never find. Tears began to roll down Faith's face. Mum died 13 years ago. She never found her sister. They were looking for each other at the same time, said William, his chest tightening. The baby woke up and started crying. Faith tried to soothe him but was visibly shaken. Are you hungry? Asked William. There's a diner open on the corner. You don't have to. Please let me help. If you're really Grace's niece, then you're family. Faith hesitated. Hunger had been gnawing at her for days, and her milk was drying up from poor nutrition. All right, but only because Mason needs me to eat. At the diner, William watched as Faith ate delicately, even though she was starving. It was just like Grace, who always chewed slowly and rested her elbow on the table the same way. Tell me about your mother, he asked. Mom was a seamstress, very talented, but she never got a good job because she didn't have an education. She said her family had money, but they kicked her out when they found out she was different. Different how? She had some issues with her mind. Nothing serious, but back then, families were ashamed of those things. They sent her away and kept Grace. William remembered Grace mentioning that her family had lost a daughter, but she always changed the subject when he asked for details. And you? How did you end up like this? Faith lowered her eyes. I managed to finish high school, even tried to go to college for teaching. But Mom got sick, and I had to work. After she passed, I was alone. I met Mason's father at work. He was a supervisor at a factory where I cleaned. And when you got pregnant, he said he wouldn't ruin his life over a fling with a janitor. He fired me and even spread rumors that I was trying to trap him. No one else would hire me. Is that why you're on the street? I got evicted 2 months ago. The money I saved ran out with prenatal visits. Since then, I've slept in shelters when there's space, or on the street. William's heart broke. While he and Grace lived comfortably, her niece was struggling to survive across town. Faith, would you like to take a shower and sleep in a bed tonight? Why? What do you want in return? Nothing. I just want to help. Grace would have done the same. I don't take charity. It's not charity, it's family taking care of family. Faith shook her head. I don't know you. You could be lying about all this. You're right. You have every reason to doubt. But he took out his wallet and showed her a photo of Grace. This is my wife. Faith took the photo with trembling hands. The resemblance was striking, but it wasn't just that shocked her. My God, she's wearing the same necklace. How? Mom always said she and her sister received identical necklaces from their father before the separation. Look here. Faith opened her coat and showed the necklace. It was exactly like the one in the photo. That's impossible, murmured William. Mom kept this necklace her whole life, waiting for the day she could return it to her sister. She said when they reunited, the necklaces would be together again. William felt a lump in his throat. Grace had been buried with her necklace, following her last wish. Faith, I need to tell you something about Grace. She doesn't want to meet me, does she? Interrupted the woman, her voice resigned. It's not that. Grace, she passed away 2 years ago. Silence stretched between them. Faith absorbed the news slowly. So I'll never meet my aunt, she said, stroking the necklace. But you can learn her story. You can know how hard she searched for you. At that moment, the baby began to cry loudly. Faith tried to soothe him, but he was feverish. He's burning up, she said, worried. Let's go to the hospital, William decided. I can't afford a doctor. I can. Let's go. At Mercy Hospital, while waiting for the pediatrician, William called home. Martha, it's me, William. Please prepare the guest room. I have a special visitor coming. Martha had worked for Grace for over 15 years and knew all her secrets. The doctor diagnosed the baby with a mild respiratory infection, prescribed medication, and recommended rest. He'll be fine, reassured the doctor, but he needs a clean, warm place to recover. Faith looked at William with gratitude mixed with hesitation. I'll accept your help for Mason, but only until he gets better. Of course, as long as you need. The Harrison mansion was in the Upper East Side, a world completely different from what Faith knew. When the car stopped at the electronic gate, she felt even more out of place. "Mrs. Faith?" Martha appeared at the door and her face immediately paled. "Martha, this is Faith. She's—" William hesitated. "Good heavens," whispered the housekeeper. "She looks just like Mrs. Grace when she was young." "What do you mean?" asked Faith. "The resemblance is striking, my dear. You could be her daughter. Actually, Martha, she might be her niece. Tell her about Grace's sister." Martha brought her hands to her chest. Mrs. Grace always spoke of a twin sister her family had lost. She said she'd find her one day. "And did she?" asked Faith. "She tried so hard. In her later years, she spent whole afternoons searching city records, trying to trace the Watson family. She even hired a detective." "What did she find?" "Not much. Just records of a Hope Watson who had a daughter in 1993, but after that the trail went cold." "1993 is the year I was born," murmured Faith. "Then Mrs. Grace was on the right path," said Martha, emotional. The guest room was bigger than the entire house Faith had grown up in. She placed Mason in the makeshift crib Martha had prepared and sat on the edge of the bed, still unable to believe where she was. "Faith," William knocked on the door. "May I come in?" "Of course." "I brought some of Grace's clothes that might fit you. You're the same size. I can't wear your wife's clothes. Please. Grace would love knowing they're helping her niece." Faith picked up a simple but elegant navy blue dress. "It was her favorite for going to church," William remarked. "Was she religious?" "Very. She said she had faith God would one day reunite her with her lost sister. Mom was very religious too. Always said God doesn't abandon his children." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. That night, Faith took her first hot shower in 2 months. As the water ran, she clutched the necklace tightly, feeling the weight of the history it carried. When she stepped out of the bathroom, she found William waiting in the living room with a box of old photos. "Would you like to see some pictures of Grace?" Faith sat beside him on the couch with Mason asleep in her arms. "This is her at 20, William showed her. "It's like looking at myself in the mirror," Faith whispered. "And this one's from our wedding." In the photo, Grace wore a necklace identical to Faith's, beaming beside William. "Were you happy?" "Very." Grace's only regret was not being able to have children and never finding her sister. "Did she want children?" "She dreamed of being a mother. We tried for years, did all sorts of treatments, but it never happened. Grace used to say maybe God had other plans for us." Faith looked down at Mason, sleeping peacefully. "She would have loved being an aunt." "I'm sure she would." Grace had the biggest heart. "Can I ask how she passed?" William took a deep breath. "It was very sudden. A blood disease the doctors couldn't identify in time. She was fine on Monday and gone by Friday." "I'm so sorry." In her last days, she talked a lot about her sister. Said she needed to find her before she left, made me promise to keep looking. "And did you?" "I tried, but I didn't know where to start. Grace never gave me details about where her sister might be." Faith touched the necklace. "Mom died saying Grace's name. I think somehow she knew she'd never find her in this life. But now you're here. Maybe that's what they both wanted. Do you really think we're family?" "Looking at you, I have no doubt. The resemblance is striking, but it's more than that. You have her mannerisms, the same way of speaking. Mom always said I took after the aunt I never knew. Grace would have been so happy to meet you." Faith felt tears roll down her cheeks. "It's strange being here. Mom dreamed of this moment her whole life." "You can stay as long as you like, Faith. This house has plenty of room." "I can't accept that. I'm not used to so much comfort." "Then we'll take it slow. Stay until Mason is fully recovered." The next morning, Faith woke up, startled. She wasn't used to so much quiet and comfort. Mason had slept through the night, something that hadn't happened in weeks. She went downstairs to the kitchen and found Martha preparing coffee. "Good morning, dear. Sleep well?" "Better than I have in months." Mason didn't even wake up to nurse. That's what a good night's sleep does. Want some coffee? Please. Martha poured coffee into a fine porcelain cup. Tell me about your mother, sweetheart. Mum was a very strong woman, raised me alone, always working hard to give me what she could. And what happened between her and Grace? From what Mum told me, they were born into a wealthy family here in New York City. But when they were about 15, they found out Mum had some psychological issues. Nothing serious, just anxiety and depression. But back then, families were ashamed. What a cruel family. Mum said their parents chose to keep Grace because she was more normal. They sent Mum away with a little money and never wanted anything to do with her again. Did Grace know? Mum didn't think so. She figured they probably told Grace her sister had died or something. How sad. Grace spent her whole life searching for someone who was also searching for her. William appeared in the kitchen, already dressed for work. Good morning, how did you sleep? Very well, thank you. Faith, I was thinking, would you like to see Grace's company? Company? Grace had a small design business. She always said that when she found her sister, she wanted them to work together. She worked with sewing? Yes, she had a real talent for it. Mom was a seamstress too, exclaimed Faith. See how much you had in common? Would you like to visit the business? I'd love to. Grace Designs was in a modest commercial building in the garment district. When they arrived, Faith was impressed by the organization and quality of the pieces. Mrs. Carroll, William called a woman around 60. This is Faith, Grace's niece I told you about. Mrs. Carroll looked at Faith with curiosity, then with astonishment. Good heavens, she looks just like her. Did Grace keep the business running? Asked Faith. Yes. She made sure everything was perfectly organized. She always said one day her niece would show up to take over. Did she leave instructions about it? She left a letter. Mrs. Carroll, could you fetch it? The letter was kept in a small safe. William handed it to Faith, who opened it with trembling hands. To my dear niece, daughter of my sister Hope, if you're reading this, it means we've finally found each other, even if I'm no longer here to hug you. I spent my whole life searching for you, and I pray God led you to me. This business is rightfully yours. Your mother was always the more talented of us at sewing, and I'm sure you inherited that gift. Use this place to build the life you and your mother deserved. I know you must be confused and maybe scared. I would be too. But know you have family now, and I've always loved you both, even if I never got the chance to show it. The necklace your mother wears is half of a set our father gave us. I hope one day you can wear both together, as a symbol that our family is finally reunited. With all my love, your Aunt Grace. Faith cried as she read. William and Mrs. Carroll were also moved. She left all this for me. The business has been in your name since Grace passed, William confirmed. She made sure it was legally registered, but I didn't even know she existed. She had faith you'd find each other one day. Faith walked through the shop, touching the fabrics and machines. It was a small but thriving, well-organized business. Mrs. Carroll, what kind of clothes do you make? Classic women's wear. Ms. Grace always said a woman should feel beautiful at any age. And you have orders? Plenty. Ms. Grace's clients were very loyal. Do you know how to sew, dear? Asked William. Mom taught me as a child. It was our time together, sewing and talking. Then it's settled, said Mrs. Carroll. Tomorrow you start working here. I don't know if I'm ready. No one's born ready, my dear. You learn by doing. That afternoon, they returned home loaded with fabrics Faith had chosen to make some test pieces. Mason was in better spirits and had stopped crying so much. William, Faith said over dinner, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why are you doing all this for me? I'm a stranger. You're not a stranger, you're family. And besides, taking care of you feels like taking care of Grace in a way I never could. How so? Grace always blamed herself for not finding her sister. She said maybe if she'd searched harder or differently. Helping you is like fulfilling her last wish. Do you still miss her? Every day. But since you arrived, it's like she's here again in some way. It's strange for me too. It feels like I'm getting to know Mom through Grace's stories. They must have been very much alike. Mom always said they were like two halves of the same person. That night, Faith put Mason to sleep and decided to try sewing a simple piece. Her hands moved naturally over the machine, as if she'd known the equipment for years. William appeared in the doorway of the room Grace had used as a studio. Grace would also stay up late sewing when she was worried. "I'm trying to process everything that's happening. It's a lot all at once. Do you think I'll be able to run Grace Designs?" "I'm sure of it. You have natural talent and your mother's determination." "How do you know Mom was determined? Any woman who can raise a daughter alone through so many hardships can only be very determined." Faith smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. "Mom really was strong. I never saw her give up on anything. Grace was the same way. I think it's a family trait." "William, can I call you that?" "Of course. Do you think they're watching us now?" "I'm sure they are, and they must be very happy." In the days that followed, Faith began working at Grace Designs. Mrs. Carroll taught her about suppliers, clients, and the daily routine of the business. Faith learned quickly and soon contributed new ideas. "You have a special talent for combining colors," Mrs. Carroll remarked, "just like Mrs. Grace. Mom always said I had good taste in clothes even though we couldn't afford much. Now you can make your own." It's surreal to think about. Mason was adjusting well to the new routine. Mrs. Martha had fallen in love with him and insisted on helping with his care. "This boy has brought new life to this house," she told William. "Grace would have loved having a baby around." Faith is a good girl, polite, hardworking. Mrs. Grace chose well. "Chose? I'm sure she guided the two of you to meet. It wasn't a coincidence you passed through that square that night." William had never thought of it that way, but Mrs. Martha was right. He didn't usually walk through that square on his way home. "You know, Martha, that night I was coming from the cemetery. I'd gone to visit Grace's grave. See, she led you to her niece." One afternoon, as Faith worked at Grace Designs, an elegant woman in her 50s walked into the shop. "Good afternoon. I'd like to speak with the owner." "That's me. How can I help you?" "I'm Barbara Harrison, William's sister." Faith felt a chill in her stomach. She'd completely forgotten William might have family. "Nice to meet you. I'm here because I need to clarify a few things with you." "About what?" "About your intentions with my brother. I don't understand." "William is a widower, wealthy, and vulnerable. Is it easy taking advantage of him?" Faith's face grew hot. "Are you implying that I'm saying it plainly. You showed up out of nowhere with a convenient story about being related to Grace, and now you're living in his house and running her business. Did you know about Grace's sister?" "Of course I did. Grace always talked about that lost sister, but that doesn't mean you're actually related. I have documents. Documents can be forged." Mrs. Carroll, who had overheard the conversation, stepped forward. "Mrs. Barbara, with all due respect, Faith's resemblance to Mrs. Grace is striking. Resemblances can be coincidental." "What about the necklace?" Faith asked. "What necklace?" Faith showed the necklace she was wearing. "This necklace is identical to the one Grace wore. They were a pair, given by their father to his twin daughters." Barbara examined the piece carefully. She truly recognized Grace's necklace, and the resemblance was perfect. This doesn't prove anything," she said, but her voice no longer sounded so certain. "Mrs. Barbara," said Mrs. Carroll, "Grace left a specific letter for her niece. How could she have written that if she wasn't sure the girl would show up one day? Grace was always a dreamer. She spent her time fantasizing about this sister. But now we know it wasn't a fantasy," Faith said calmly. "Mom existed, I exist, and we're here." Barbara fell silent for a moment. "Even if you really are Grace's niece, that doesn't give you the right to take advantage of William's kindness." "I'm not taking advantage of anyone. I'm working to rebuild my life. With his help. He offered help. I didn't ask for it. And now? Are you going to live in his house forever?" "I plan to get my own place as soon as I can save up enough." "When?" "I don't know yet. I'm starting from scratch." "How convenient." Faith took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Mrs. Barbara, I understand your concern for your brother, but I can assure you my intentions are honest. We'll see. I'll be watching." After Barbara left, Faith was shaken. "Don't mind her," said Mrs. Carroll. "Barbara has always been possessive of William. She didn't even want Grace around at first." "Really?" "Yes. It took her years to accept her sister-in-law. Now she doesn't want anyone taking her sister's place in William's life." "But I'm not trying to take anyone's place. I know, dear, you're a good person, but Barbara is afraid her brother will grow attached to you and then suffer when you leave his life." "What if I don't leave?" "Then she's afraid of losing the influence she has over him." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Faith told William about Barbara's visit. "I'm sorry about that," he said. "Barbara is my only family, and sometimes she worries too much. She thinks I'm taking advantage of you." "Are you?" "Of course not," Faith replied, indignant. "I know you're not. I was just teasing. William, maybe it's better if I find a place to live with Mason." "Why?" "I don't want to cause problems between you and your sister. Barbara will get used to it. She just needs time to understand your family now." "What if she never understands?" "Then that's her problem, not ours." "Ours?" William caught the word he'd used. "Sorry, I meant yours. It's your problem, not hers." "No, I liked ours. It's been a long time since I felt like part of anything." "You're part of this family now, Faith." Grace made that clear in her letter. A few weeks later, Faith had settled into the routine at Grace Designs. Sales were going well, and she had earned the trust of the customers. One afternoon, a client brought her teenage daughter to buy a prom dress. "I want something classic, but that makes my daughter feel special," the mother said. "I have an idea," Faith said. "I can create a unique design based on a dress my mother sketched years ago." "You kept your mother's sketches?" "A few. She dreamed of having her own fashion line one day." Faith went to fetch the sketchbook she'd brought from the house where she grew up. It was one of the few valuable things she owned. "This one," she showed a delicate sketch of a long dress with subtle embroidery. "It's beautiful," the girl exclaimed. "Mom designed this thinking of the prom dress she never had. Can you make it just like this? I can adapt it to your style and size." The order was a success. When the girl came to pick up the dress, she was radiant. "I've never felt so beautiful," she said. "Your mother would be proud," Faith murmured. That night, Faith showed the notebook to William. "Your mother had so much talent. She always said she taught herself, looking at magazines and trying to copy them." "What about you? Do you draw too?" "A little. Mom taught me." "Can I see?" Faith hesitated, but opened the notebook to more recent pages. There were several of her drawings made during the hard nights on the street. "Faith, these drawings are amazing." "I don't know. I draw when I'm nervous or sad." "Grace used to draw too. She would have been impressed by your talent." "You think so?" "I'm sure of it. You're both natural artists." A few days later, Martha came looking for Faith. "Sweetheart, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I found a box in the attic that belonged to Grace. It has several things that might interest you." The box was full of letters, photos, and documents. At the bottom was a sealed envelope labeled, "For Hope or her daughter." "William should see this," Faith said. When they opened the envelope together, they found the twins' birth certificates, childhood photos, and a letter from their father, written shortly before his death. "My dear daughters, if you're reading this letter, it means you've finally discovered the truth about Hope. I hope you can forgive me for the terrible decision I made so many years ago. When you were 15, Hope began showing signs of depression and anxiety. At the time, I didn't understand it was something that could be treated. Afraid it would harm both of you, I made the decision to separate you. I sent Hope to a care home, telling Grace her sister had died. By the time Hope got better, it was too late. Grace was married, and I didn't know how to explain the lie. Hope never forgave me, and she was right. I tore apart two sisters who loved each other more than anything in the world because of my prejudice and ignorance. I hope one day you can reunite and that my granddaughter can meet the aunt she always deserved to know. With eternal remorse, Anthony Watson." My God. William murmured. Grace never knew her sister was alive. And Mom never knew Grace believed she had died, Faith added, tears in her eyes. They spent their whole lives looking for each other, never knowing they were both alive. What a waste, Faith sighed. But now you're here. You can honor both their memories. That night, Faith couldn't sleep. The discovery about the sisters' separation had shaken her deeply. She went out to the garden with Mason in her arms, needing fresh air. Can't sleep? William appeared on the porch. I keep thinking how different life would have been if Grandpa hadn't separated them. Grace would have known you. She would have been the loving aunt she always wanted to be. And Mum wouldn't have suffered so much. She would have had her sister's support. But maybe you wouldn't exist. If your mother had stayed with the family, she might not have had you. That's true. I never thought of it that way. Everything in life has a purpose, Faith. Maybe you were born to bring this family back together. You really believe that? I do. Since you arrived, it feels like Grace is back in some way. Faith looked at William with affection. He had become so much more than a distant relative. He was like the father she never had. William, can I ask you something personal? Always. Did you ever think about remarrying? After Grace? No. She was the love of my life. But you're still young. You could meet someone. At 62, I'm not looking for romance anymore. I'm looking for family, purpose, and I've found that with you. With me and Mason. Yes, you've brought new life to this house. Several months passed. Grace Designs was thriving under Faith's management, as she had implemented many of her mother's design ideas. Mason was growing up healthy and happy, surrounded by love. One morning, Barbara showed up at Grace Designs again. I came to talk to you, she said, calmer than the last time. Of course, Mrs. Carol, can you watch the shop for a moment? They sat down in the small office at the back. Faith, I need to apologize to you. What? I was wrong about you. I spoke with some customers, and they all rave about your work and your kindness. Thank you. And more importantly, I haven't seen my brother this happy in a long time. He's a wonderful person. He took care of me and Mason when we were lost. I know. William has always been too good for his own good. Sometimes that worries me. I understand your concern, but you can be sure I won't hurt him. I was talking to him yesterday and I realized something. What? Ever since Grace passed, he was just surviving. Now he's living again. Mason brings so much joy to the house. It's not just Mason, it's you too. The way you care for the home, how you look after him. It's as if Grace sent someone to take care of him. Faith smiled. I feel cared for by him too. I never had a father figure in my life. So you complete each other. I think so. Faith, can I ask you for something? Of course. Don't leave my brother. He's grown very attached to you both. I don't plan on going anywhere. This is my home now. That's good. Family is family, right? Yes, it is. From that day on, Barbara became an ally. She helped with Mason when Faith had to travel for work and even suggested improvements for Grace Designs. A year after Faith's arrival, they decided to throw a birthday party for Mason. It was the first birthday he celebrated in a home, with family. We don't need a big party, said Faith. He won't even remember. But we will, replied William, and Grace would have thrown the biggest party in the world for her great-nephew. The party was simple, but full of love. Mrs. Martha baked a homemade cake, Barbara brought too many gifts, and William hired a clown. Mum would be so happy seeing this, Faith murmured, watching Mason try to catch the soap bubbles the clown made. She is watching, said William. Both of them are. That night, after Mason fell asleep, Faith and William sat on the porch. William, I want to thank you for everything. There's no need to thank me. Yes, there is. You saved our lives that night in the square. You saved mine too. I was lost after Grace died. Sometimes I think she brought us together. I'm sure she did. Do you miss her? Every day. But it's a different kind of missing now. Before it was desperate. Now it's a grateful missing. What do you mean? Grateful missing for having had her in my life, and grateful she led me to you. Faith smiled and took William's hand. "Thank you for giving us a family. Thank you for giving my life meaning again." 2 years passed. Grace Designs had grown, and Faith hired 2 more seamstresses. Mason was starting to talk and called William Grandpa, much to the man's delight. One afternoon, Faith received an unexpected call. "Hello? Is this Faith Watson Harrison?" "Yes, speaking." "This is Mercy Hospital. We have a patient here who asked to speak with you." "With me? Who?" "He says he's your son's father." Faith felt the world spin. "What?" "His name is Robert Smith. He's hospitalized with a serious heart condition." I'll be there." Faith told William what had happened. "Do you want me to come with you?" he offered. "Yes, I don't know if I can face this alone." At the hospital, they found Robert in a delicate state. He had changed a lot, thin and worn down. "Faith?" he said weakly. "What do you want, Robert?" I want to meet my son." "Now? After almost 3 years?" "I know I was a coward, but I'm dying, Faith. The doctor said I don't have much time." "So what?" "When I needed you, when Mason needed you, you disappeared. I know, I was scared. I was scared of what? Of taking responsibility, of changing my life. And now you're not scared anymore. Now I'm scared of dying without knowing my son." William touched Faith's arm. "The decision is yours," he said softly. Faith looked at Robert. He really did look very sick. "Why now, Robert? Why after so long?" "Because I found out you managed to get back on your feet. I heard about the business, the new life. I was ashamed of what I did." "You should be ashamed." "Faith, I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I came to ask to meet Mason before I go. He doesn't know you. To him, his grandfather is William." Robert looked at William curiously. "Did you get married?" "No. William is family. The family you didn't want to be." "I see. Does he treat you well?" "He treats both of us like the children he never had." "That's good. I'm glad you found someone good." "Robert, what exactly do you want?" "I just want to see Mason once. I don't need to talk to him. I don't need him to know who I am. I just want to see him." Faith took a deep breath. "I'll think about it. Thank you. That's more than I deserve." On the way home, William and Faith talked about the situation. "What do you think I should do?" she asked. "I think you should take Mason to see him, even after everything he did. Not for him, for Mason. One day your son might want to know about his biological father. If Robert dies without Mason seeing him, you'll always wonder if you did the right thing. What if Mason gets attached to him? Mason is 2. He won't get attached to a stranger in a hospital. What if Robert wants rights over Mason? A dying man won't want to complicate his son's life. From what I saw, he just wants peace of mind." Faith thought for 2 days. Finally, she decided to take Mason to the hospital. "But I'll stay outside the room," said William. "If you need me, just call." "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." At the hospital, Robert was awake and more alert. "He's beautiful," he said, seeing Mason in Faith's arms. "He looks like me," she replied. "He has your eyes and your nose." Mason watched Robert curiously but without fear. Can I touch him?" Faith hesitated but let Robert stroke Mason's little hand. "Hi, little one. I'm a friend of your mum's." Mason smiled and babbled something. "He's very smart," said Robert. "Yes. He's starting to talk." "What does he call you?" "Mommy. And he calls William Grandpa. William seems like a good man. He's the best man I know. Faith, I want you to know I didn't come here to disrupt your lives. I know. I just wanted to see what he was like. And to say, I'm sorry for everything. Robert, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you really abandon me?" "The truth." Robert sighed. "Because you were poor. My family would have disowned me if I'd taken responsibility for a child with a cleaning lady. And now does your family know you're here?" "I don't have a family anymore. They abandoned me anyway when they found out I had gambling debts. Gambling? An addiction that ruined my life. I lost everything. My home, my car, my job. I've been living on the streets for over a year. Faith felt a mix of anger and pity. So you abandoned me for nothing. For nothing. And now that I see how you managed to rebuild your life, I feel even worse. Mason started getting restless. He's hungry, said Faith. You can go. Thank you for bringing him. Robert, do you want me to bring him here again? No, once is enough. I don't want to confuse him. Are you sure? I am. He has a good family now. He doesn't need me messing things up. Faith stood up to leave. Faith? What? Take good care of him. And, be happy. You deserve it. Thank you, Robert. That was the last time Faith saw Robert. 2 weeks later, Mercy Hospital called to say he had passed away during the night. How do you feel? Asked William. Relieved and sad at the same time. That's normal. He was Mason's father, even if he was an absent one. Now Mason will never know his biological father. But he has you, and he has me, if you'll let me keep being his grandfather. Of course, you're the only father figure he's ever known. And I intend to be forever if you'll have me. We'd love that. The years passed peacefully. Mason grew up calling William Grandpa, Barbara Aunt Bea, and Mrs. Martha Grandma Martha. Grace Designs thrived, and Faith even opened a second store. When Mason turned 5, Faith decided to tell him about his origins. Mason, Mommy needs to tell you a story. What story? About our family. Grandpa William and Aunt Bea, they're the family we chose. But Mommy had another family before. Where are they? In heaven. Great-Grandma Hope and Great-Aunt Grace. Were they sisters? They were twins, but they were separated when they were little. Why? Because people back then didn't understand some things, but they loved each other very much and never stopped looking for one another. Did they find each other? Not in this life, but they sent Grandpa William to find us. How? The way people who love us always find a way to take care of us, even when they're no longer here. Mason thought for a moment. So Great-Aunt Grace was married to Grandpa William? Yes, and she would have loved to meet you. I wish I could have met her too. You know her through Grandpa, and through the business she left for us. The business was hers? It was. Now it's ours. She left it to us. That's so cool. Grandpa William said she was as pretty as you. She looked just like Great-Grandma, who looked just like me. The women in our family are very alike. What about my dad? My real one? Faith took a deep breath. She knew this question would come someday. Your father was a man who didn't know how to be a dad. He was young and scared. Didn't he want to meet me? In the end, he did. But it was too late. Did he leave? He went to heaven before he could be a real father. So can Grandpa William be my real grandpa? He already is, sweetheart. Real family isn't just about blood. It's about who cares, who loves, who's there. Then our family is big. It is. We have Grandpa William, Aunt Bea, Grandma Martha, Mrs. Carroll, and up in heaven we have Great-Grandma Hope and Great-Aunt Grace watching over us. That night, Mason asked a question that surprised Faith. Mommy, why don't you marry Grandpa William? What, sweetie? At school, my friends who live with their grandpas are married to them. Grandpa William is like a father to me, Mason, not a husband. But you like each other. We love each other as family. Oh, I get it. But Mason's question made Faith think, what exactly was the nature of her relationship with William? They lived as a family, made decisions about Mason together, took care of each other. A few weeks later, William came down with a bad flu. Faith cared for him with the same tenderness he had shown her in the early days. You don't have to do this, he said, as she brought soup to his room. Of course I do, it's what families do. I don't want you and Mason to get sick. We'll be fine. Grandma Martha is looking after Mason downstairs. Faith, can I confess something? Of course. These last few years have been the happiest of my life since Grace died. For me too. They've been the happiest since Mom passed away. Sometimes I feel guilty for being happy without Grace. Do you think she'd be angry? No. Grace wanted me to be happy. She always said that if anything happened to her, I should find reasons to smile again. Then she'd be happy knowing you found those reasons. Yeah, she'd be happy knowing I finally met the niece she always searched for. And that this niece found the father she never had. William smiled. We're quite an unconventional family, aren't we? The best family in the world. When Mason turned 7, William had a special idea. Faith, I want to adopt Mason officially. How? I want him to be legally my grandson, so he has all the rights of a child in this family. William, you don't have to. I want to. Mason has been my grandson in my heart for years. Now I want it to be on paper too. What if I marry someday and my husband wants to adopt Mason? Then we'll talk. But for now, I want to ensure he has legal security. What exactly does that mean? It means he'll be my heir. The house, the businesses, everything will be his one day. William, that's so... It's what I want, Faith. Mason is the only grandson I'll ever have. Grace would have loved knowing we finally have a family heir. I need to think. Of course, talk it over at home. But know it would fulfill a dream for me. That night, Faith talked to Mason about the proposal. What does it mean to be Grandpa's official grandson? The boy asked. It means you'd be considered his son on paper, as if I were his daughter too. Is that good? It's a great honor, Mason. It means Grandpa loves us so much he wants us to be official family. I already think of him as my real grandpa. I know, but this would make it official. You can do it, Mom. I want to be Grandpa's official son. The next day, Faith gave William her answer. I accept, but with one condition. What? I want to officially take the Harrison name too. Really? I want us to truly be a family. Faith Watson Harrison and Mason Watson Harrison. Grace would be moved. I think Mom would too. The adoption process was quick since there was no opposition. Robert had died and left no family to claim rights over Mason. The day the papers were finalized, they had a small celebration at home. Now we're officially family, said William, hugging Mason. We always were, the boy replied. True, but now we have papers to prove it. Barbara arrived with a pie to celebrate. Welcome officially to the Harrison family, she said, hugging Faith. Thank you for accepting me. Thank you for looking after my brother and giving me a great nephew. Martha cried with emotion. Grace is happy in heaven today, she said. I'm sure she is, Faith agreed. That night, after Mason fell asleep, Faith and William sat on the porch as they did every evening. How do you feel? He asked. Like I've finally found my place in the world. Funny how life surprises us, isn't it? How so? 5 years ago, you were sleeping in a square with a baby, no prospects at all. Today you have a thriving business, a beautiful home, a family who loves you. And 5 years ago you were alone in a house too big with no purpose. Today you have a grandson who adores you and a reason to smile every day. Grace always said God writes straight with crooked lines. Mom said the same thing. They were wise. They really were. Faith looked up at the starry sky. Sometimes I feel like they're watching our family come together. I feel that too. William, can I tell you a secret? Always. That first night I slept here, I dreamed of a woman who looked like me. She said I was in the right place and that I should stay. Do you think it was Grace? I don't know, but she was wearing the same necklace I wear. Maybe it was your mother. Or maybe it was both of them together, finally reunited, watching over us. I like that idea. They stayed silent for a moment, enjoying the peace of the night. Faith? Yes? Thank you for coming into my life. Thank you for stopping in that square. Do you think it would have been different if I hadn't stopped? I think one way or another, we would have found each other. People who are meant to be family always find a way to come together. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. Do you believe destiny truly exists, or that William and Faith met by pure coincidence? Share your honest thoughts in the comments about how you see these life situations. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.